my name is Andrew Weber, and I chose the article called Perceptions About Parent Engagement Among Hispanic Immigrant Mothers. I chose this article this week because my school has a large population that are Hispanic immigrants. And we are in the middle of right now trying to figure out how we can get them more involved in not only their child's education, but also in the school with school events. And so I was really interested in seeing what our parents' perspectives are and how we can use those to further get our parents involved. This article is written by 6 different authors who all work at the New York University. They work in a variety of fields from pediatrics to psychologists. They are all part of the Bell Project there at the New York University. This project is focused on promoting parent-child interactions that will enhance the children's school readiness and their long-term educational achievement. This is all in hopes of lowering poverty in the United States. This project, not just these 6 authors, but this project has been going on for over 20 years now, and they have spent those 20 years focusing on child development and have written over 30 publications on a wide variety of topics that has to do with child development. As literacy majors, we have spent this week focusing on family literacy, and we have learned that parent engagement is critical to a child's educational achievement. However, there hasn't been a lot of focus on what are the parents' perceptions of their roles in their child's education. Let alone has there been real focus on parents who are low income and Hispanic immigrants. So this study is to focus on those Hispanic parents and their perspectives on what they think their role is in their child's education and what they are personally doing day to day to help their children's education. And then it goes along with that is, how confident do those parents feel in accomplishing these activities with their kids? And if they feel like there's any barriers that prevent them from engaging with their children. The beginning of this article spends a lot of time discussing how important education is to Hispanic families, that they have such high aspirations for their children, that you can see that in their sacrifices that they have. One being just the fact that they immigrated to the United States to begin with, and then 2, how hard they work to be able to provide and to improve the lives of their family. And I agree with this article. In my population at my school, our Hispanic parents, they are just so beyond grateful to be in America, that we are providing their kids with a quality education, and they are so supportive of whatever myself as their child's teacher or the school needs to further their child's education. So I believe that is a really important part to start with, is that these parents truly want what's best for their kids, and they want to do whatever it takes to get there. chosen from mothers who were receiving pediatric primary care at an urban public hospital and met the following criteria. 1, their child had to be full-term newborn with no significant medical complications. 2, the mother was the primary caregiver with the primary language either being English or Spanish. And then 3, she had to have the ability to maintain contact with the program through the entirety of the study. So they ended up with 92 mothers who had a child in first grade. Of those 92 mothers, 91% of them were immigrants from Mexico, Ecuador, and the Dominican Republic. 92% were Hispanic. 88% were monolingual Spanish speakers. 80% married or lived with their partner. 52% were employed. 64% of the mothers did not complete high school. Of the first grade children, there was an even split between boys and girls. And then of those children, 66% of them were the second or later born in the family. The procedure of the study was to ask the mothers 2 open-ended questions. 1, tell me about your role as a parent. And 2, how confident do you feel in that role? If the women's answers were too short or it wasn't related to education of their child, more open-ended questions were asked to help guide them to explain their thinking and explaining their answers. Once all the answers were gathered, then they were analyzed by 2 of the authors of the article. And these authors were looking for repeated terms throughout all of the responses, and then in hopes of taking those common terms and finding some common larger themes amongst them. The most common theme amongst the mothers was that they felt that their role was to help their children learn. 54% mentioned that their role was to help their children learn through helping with homework and utilizing and reading in books. When discussing their beliefs that their job is to help their children with their homework, the study found that some women actually felt very confident in being able to do that. One woman is quoted here saying, "I feel good preparing them and helping them with their homework." However, there were some women who felt worried and even inadequate to be able to successfully help their children. One woman said, "Sometimes I feel that I could do more because he loses his patience too quickly, like with his homework. I try to help him, but if I don't understand, we both get frustrated. I would like to be able to help him more." And I feel like that's a really common belief of all parents, not just Hispanic parents, but all parents can feel very confident at times with helping their kids with homework and just really frustrated at other times helping their children, and they don't know what to do. And that's where teachers can get involved to help give those parents some tips to help the mother or the parent feel successful in that role of helping their children learn. The other common theme that they felt, a lot of the mothers felt, was utilizing books and reading together. Most of the women felt that books lead to success in school Whereas there were quite a few women that actually expressed that books lay a foundation for success in general, not just school, but in every aspect of their children's life. One mother is quoted here saying, "We are achieving goals in reading. I always give him a piece of advice that his best friends are books." Another quote that really just hit me hard in the heart was this mother said, "I believe I'm doing well. I'm working at night. I would prefer to be at home to read with her more often and to get her to watch TV less. But I take books to work and read to her over the phone." And I just love that quote because despite that things may be a little tight with them right now, that she is working at nights, which isn't the ideal situation, she's making the best, which I think is so cool and it warms my heart. The second most common theme amongst the women was that they felt that their role was to teach their children appropriate behavior. 34% felt that it was their job to teach their children to adhere to the rules at school, to be respectful, to have good manners, and just overall be a good person. These women also felt very confident in this role. They knew how to teach their children to behave correctly. Even some of the mothers went so far as saying that they were so confident that they instilled consequences with their children if they were not behaving in a way that was appropriate or up to their expectations. One mother is quoted saying, "I think I am a good mom to educate them. I give them good advice, what is right, what is wrong, and how they ought to behave." Going along with the punishment part, one woman is quoted, "I have confidence, a lot of confidence. The things that I do for my children are good. I set rules for them, what they must use, what is good for them and what isn't. I give them advice. I make them reflect on the positives and the negatives about the things they do and teach them that all things have consequences." And I think that is so cool that not only is education so important to these women, but that they really, really care that their kids are good people and they are teaching them really good life skills, that there are rules that you have to follow and there are expectations, and whatever you do, there's going to be consequences, whether they are good or bad. The third common theme was that these women felt that their lack of English language was a barrier. That 22% felt that they could not interact with their children in a way that they would like because they don't speak English like their kids do. And that really diminished their confidence as a parent. They really struggled, especially with that homework piece. They weren't able to help their children with homework because the homework was in English and they didn't have the knowledge of English to be confident enough to help them in what their child needs. So most of the women felt either distressed or insecure. The really insightful piece of this was 8% of those 92 women actually sought out help from others to get help for themselves and to help their children with their homework. Most of the time it was family members, and since 66% of these children in this study were the second or later born in the family, they had those older siblings to really look to help them with their homework and with their English overall, which I thought was pretty neat that they they look for help. They realize that they need the help, and so they find somebody who is knowledgeable in it and help them become more educated as well. We find this at my school quite often, that parents who don't speak English, they rely heavily on the older siblings to help communicate, to translate, and then help the younger kids with their academics. One woman was quoted saying, "Sometimes I don't feel good because I would like to help her more, especially with things in English." And then, like in my school, I find this quote, I hear this quote quite often. "I tell them to pay attention in school because I don't speak English." And so that puts more pressure on the child because they don't have that home support in English, that it is upon themselves to figure it out. And so that puts stress on the child. But then again, it goes back to really diminishing the parents because they don't feel like they can help at all, when really they have skills of their own that they could be helping in other areas. The end of the article, it discusses how these mothers feel because they lack English proficiency, they don't feel like they can be involved in the school. They feel like they can't have a conversation with other people there, and that makes them feel very uncomfortable. And so more times than not, these Hispanic mothers don't participate in school events. And I feel like this is very common amongst all non-English speaking parents, that they don't feel real comfortable with being involved in school because either A, they don't know the language, or they don't feel that they're educated enough to be around. Like teachers can be very intimidating. And so that is something where this relates to educators. As educators, we need to be thinking about what are our parents doing in our school and what parents are not helping in the school. Why those parents may not be helping to begin with. Is it something that they just honestly don't have the time? They don't really want to? Or is it something where they truly want to, like these Hispanic mothers do? They just feel uneducated, or they feel ashamed because they don't know English, that they don't feel comfortable coming in and helping. And so as educators, I feel like we need to take this opportunity to look at this study and learn that as a whole, parents really want to teach their children to learn. They want their children to be respectful and just good, well-behaved kids, but they don't feel comfortable in order to do that. So we as educators can be that bridge over that gap between these mothers who this is their wishes, they just don't know how to do it. So I think it's really important that we as teachers try to understand our own population and our own student parents and get their advice, just like this study did, to get their perspective of how do they feel their role is in their child's education, and maybe what are some barriers that are preventing them from being part of their child's education. I think as educators, we could take that information and really make an impact not only on the child and their family, but also in our individual schools. The article finishes with the study committee talking about a variety of ways or a couple ideas of how they can further investigate this idea. They want to do another study that expands to other caregivers, not just the mothers, but maybe even interviewing fathers, grandparents, and seeing what their perception of what their role is in the children's education. They also talked about finding ways for parents, even though they may have a lower English proficiency, but finding a way for those parents to still be involved in their children's education. So going back to what I was saying is trying to give teachers ways of, yes, we have parents who are not proficient in English, but they still have those skills that really could help a school flourish. And so finding ways to incorporate that and help teachers find those avenues as well. And then the last one was for teachers to interview their own student parents to figure out how their parents view their children's education and what role that they want to play in that. My school has worked hard in the last year. We have interviewed our English language learner parents about their views of education, their views of what they want to do in our school, how they would like to be involved. And so we spent a lot of getting their perspective because they don't very often vocalize their opinions. Right now, we are in the middle of looking at that data and trying to figure out how can we still get these parents involved. And that's something that we are wanting to do. We struggle on trying to find avenues to put them into. And it's more of just that our parents don't give us, I don't want to say a lot of ideas, but they don't know either. They want to help, they just don't know how. And we want their help at the school. We're just not sure how either. So if this committee could really come up with some great ideas, or even you guys as fellow teachers, how do you guys incorporate all your parents in the school? How do you get them involved, especially these immigrant parents who don't speak English well? That is something that we're focusing on, and maybe you guys can kind of give me some ideas of what has been successful in your schools that we might be able to adopt in my school. That is the end of my presentation. Please feel free to leave any questions or comments. I would greatly appreciate any insights that you may have on the topic. And thank you for watching my presentation.